Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the schooling scombrid, Matthew Henry. How you doing, Matthew?
Scombrid. A schooling scombrid. So not just any scombrid, a scombrid that's
educated.
In a school.
You were an educated gentleman.
I like it.
Gentle fish.
Wait, what? Fish? Did you say fish?
Gentle. I said fish. Yeah, gentle fish.
Why am I a gentle fish?
Because that's what Marlins eat.
Oh.
Marlins eat schooling scombrids. They also eat those things with the tentacles. Squid.
I see that.
They eat. God, the big ones eat the smaller ones. Apparently, in some cases.
I'm looking it up. Scombridae, fish family, includes the mackerels. Holy mackerel!
That's right.
Mackerel.
Mackerels have been known to be eaten by Marlins.
Oh, okay. And San Francisco Giants.
San Francisco Giants definitely eaten by Marlins. Yes, yes.
Even when the marlin is a little sick and kind of at the kind of on its last legs.
That's right. The scrawny, pathetic Marlins can still eat a San Francisco Giant. It turns out. Turns out.
They're a scombrid.
Yeah. Matthew, just when you thought the season couldn't get any more disappointing.
Oh, I don't think that anymore.
Oh, you don't? You don't? You're like, oh, nope, they're going to definitely disappoint me today.
I fully expect it. Optimistic Matthew is way gone. I mean, we buried him about a month ago, I think, at this point.
That poor guy. Did he crash the bandwagon?
Yeah. The bandwagon has not only crashed, it ended in a fiery inferno.
Oh, I see. I
see. It's gone. It's been declared it's unsalvageable. The insurance company is not going to pay.
Oh, I see. It's not going to cover it.
No.
But Matthew jumped out before. Actually, Matthew didn't jump out. Matthew lit it on fire and then released the emergency brake, and it just rolled down the hill.
I know when to call it quits. I know when the wagon just needs to go. And I don't know if the Giants do, but I don't.
No, I don't think they do. I look at Bob Melvin, and he looks like a guy who's still grinding. He's still trying to win every game. You got to respect
the hustle, man. You got to respect.
Yeah. That's what Bob Melvin is there to do. He's there to win every day. And maybe
should have kept Camilo on the team then.
That's the kind of manager he is. Maybe he should have. He definitely needed him. In 2 of those games. That is for sure. Sure.
He didn't exactly light it up today. So,
well, he gave up 1 run. It was a walk and a hit, but it was the first run he's given up since he's been back. Matthew, who sucked a whole lot more than him today?
Yeah, Logan Webb.
Yeah. So this is enough blame to go around. I think
there is. There's plenty.
I have this image of you, Matthew, just as the burning heap of the bandwagon is in the background. You're walking away from the camera, and then you just pull out of your back pocket the clown mask that I left on the dash, and then you just put it over your head and you pull it down.
Okay.
And then, cut to credits.
I like that. I was thinking more like I had a cocktail in my hand, but okay. Clown head. All right, I got it. Yeah.
Well, you definitely take a swig before you pull the mask down.
Okay, good. Okay. We're clear on that. Okay.
All right. Well, Matthew, another very important thing has happened. And actually, it makes me feel better, strangely, even though they had to lose to the Marlins. And so I have a question for you. The icebreaker.
Okay.
Do you prefer, in general, in life, comfort or novelty? Like, would you rather like have the same thing over and over again because it's comfortable and safe, or even if it's not the same thing, but it's like something that's recognizable, or would you rather try something new and exciting and flashy?
You know, I like to think that I'm all about new things and change and just, going, you want the big exciting thing until I'm in the store shopping for my deodorant and they don't have it. Then I realize how much I like the same thing. It's I like you expect me not to smell like ocean breeze? Like I gotta smell like something else,
right?
So now I order in bulk, like
I see
5 or 6 in a row, or at a time. But no, I'm gonna go with novelty. I like living on the edge. I like new things. The same old gets a little boring after a while.
Nice. Okay, I like that. I like that answer. That's unfortunate though, because the Giants have moved back to homeostasis, their most comfortable place.
Yes. I understand the juxtaposition and the conundrum that puts me in. Yes.
Right. I do understand the thing about the deodorant though. Like, although my deodorant is called like Fresh Nuance, or something like that. It's like it doesn't make any sense what the words are. I'm like, what does that even mean? But anyway. Today is Sunday, September 1st, as we record this podcast. Your San Francisco Giants went 2-4 this past week to bring their record back to 68-70.
2 games under 500.
Or otherwise known as homeostasis. I think there is no other spot that they have held more than homeostasis all year. I know it's true. In my heart, I know it's true. My brain even thinks it's likely that it's true. I think that they have been no other spot more than 2 games under 500 all year. I'd like to say it's good to be back, but really no, it's rather pathetic to be back. Earlier in the week, the San Francisco Giants went 1-2 against the Milwaukee Brewers.
Understandable. They're a really good team.
They're a good team, and we all kind of knew, I don't think the Giants had accepted it yet. But that is where, it became clear. It became clear that, all the cupcake games except for 3 are over. The easiest record in the National League has now turned into the hardest record in the National League.
Yep.
Easy come, easy go, right? Hey, who told you that?
We did.
Which podcast told you that was going to happen? This one. Everybody else was like, easiest record for the rest of the season. And we were like, wait a second.
Yeah, we broke it down. We broke it down by a month.
That's right. We warned you. But you're all smart. You knew it anyway.
And then we had the Miami Marlins coming to town. At least we had a little reprieve there.
That's right. We thought, here it is. Our last opportunity to win a series without, it being a surprise. And somehow it still wasn't a surprise when they lost.
We're scombrid, though.
That's right. We're scombrid. We're Marlin food. The worst team in the National League, Matthew, came waltzing into our home stadium where we have one of the best home records in all of baseball. We're really good at home.
Wow.
Awful on the road. And so there we are. We're playing the Rockies of the East in our stadium. And they're worse than the Rockies. And then, now you can't say that anymore. The Marlins are not the worst team in the National League. And why is that?
Because they won 2 out of 3 from the Giants?
That's right. That's the only reason that the Marlins are not the worst team in the National League is because they won 2 out of 3 from the Giants. They pulled a game ahead, half a game ahead of the Colorado Rockies. And so now the Giants can say we did not get beaten by the worst team in the National League.
I like how that works. Yeah.
And on that note, while we're talking about bad teams, I did want to just let you know, Matthew, or I wanted to ask you a trivia question, but I'm going to give you the answer right now.
Okay.
When was the last time the Chicago White Sox won a baseball game?
Oh. Oh, I know. Okay.
You had to think about it. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you had to think about it.
Okay. I imagine it was the game that they won against the Giants.
Would you believe it was Wednesday?
Wednesday, the 21st.
The 21st of August. That is correct. When they outscored the San Francisco Giants by 4 runs. Taking it to Eric Miller, the best left-hander in the Giants bullpen. All right, well, look, it's easy to beat up on our Giants. We've been talking about... Oh, wait, well, I'm not done beating up on them. Here I was chastising you, Matthew, last Wednesday, for not talking about the standings, and I was just about to blow by it. The San Francisco Giants are in 4th place in the National League West, 14.5 games behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. 9.5 games behind the D-Bags and the San Diego Padres both. It's better, though, in the wild card standings, where they are only 6.5 games out of the last wild card spot. But they have 3 teams to pass. I think the Giants need to win. I think I did the math. The Atlanta Braves, Matthew, look like they're going to win 88 games. So the Giants would have to win 89 games, which is 21 games. And I think they have 24 games left.
So you're saying the odds aren't good.
I would say, yeah, I think the Giants would have to go 21-3. I do know they would need 21 wins. I don't know how many more games they have left, but the Giants would need to win 21 more times to get to 89, and that just does not look like it is going to happen. All right.
The Giants have a 0.4% chance to make the playoffs, Ben.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance. 0.4% chance.
I keep reading it in these articles, and I know when you're a journalist, you have to say, well, they could still theoretically make it. But I keep hearing these people not ready to give it up. And it's all you're doing is prolonging your own misery and letting these people feel that, we're still competing. We're still competitive. And this is, I think, the worst the Giants have been, Matthew, in the Farhan Zaidi era at this time of year.
Yeah.
This is the worst.
Well, the White Sox are on pace to go 36 and 126. So,
yeah.
At least we're not them.
So it could be worse?
Could be worse. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the same time, though, Matthew, the Houston Astros lost 100 games, I think, 3 years in a row, with 111 games being their worst and last year over that mark. They had one more losing season after that. And then, Matthew, since then, they have not had a losing season. And they've made the playoffs, I think, every year except for 2. So there is something to be said about tanking. But anyway, we're not here to wallow in the misery. Look, we all know that the Giants aren't good. We all know that the season has been a major disappointment. We all know that we really want change. And we all know that there's a very strong chance that that change isn't coming. So we thought what we would do today is just take a break from all of that. We're going to talk about where the Giants have been really, really good, especially for 2 key players on the team. And we're really going to focus on that. And that's important because one of these players might not be a Giant next year. And so that also brings up the question, and this is what we're going to talk about in our second topic, is what is the current state of the San Francisco Giants roster, and what does it mean for the future? But before we get to all of that, Matthew, it is time for you to ask us our trivia question.
Today's trivia question, Ben, is simple. What is the Giants' winning percentage dating back to the 2022 season? So 2022, 2023, and up to now 2024 combined, what is the Giants' winning percentage?
Well, I know, Matthew, that the plan was to be competitive which to me means like competing for the playoffs, making the playoffs, and then possibly having a chance at the World Series, while Farhan Zaidi rebuilds the farm system.
Mm-hmm.
And so the farm system part's going great. We've all seen that. We've got future all-stars coming up. Everybody knew it. The guys that we believed were going to be there are there. And so I'm guessing that record must be 540. I'm going with 540.
Okay. All right, folks, we'll see how wrong Ben is, and he's very wrong at the end of the episode.
Wait, what?
Enough with the banter. Let's talk cocktails.
Yes, let's talk cocktails, Bob.
Matthew needs it, Bob.
Do.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
Well, Bob, this is actually one of the rare times where I am bringing back a repeat cocktail. And this is one that came up on social media recently. Scott, one of our listeners, posted that he was getting his fig-infused gin ready for the Fall of Fig cocktail. And last year, I debuted it pretty late. It was late October when I announced this. And so, folks, figs are now in farmers markets and they're in grocery stores. Figs are everywhere. So I thought I would bring this recipe back to give you a chance to make your own fig-infused gin. So what's in a Fall of Fig? Well, it's got 2 ounces of London dry gin that has been infused with figs. You basically just take a big old mason jar with about, I get a little basket of figs and cut them into quarters and threw them in and then filled the jar up with gin. You let that sit for about a week at least and just kind of give it a shake every day to kind of infuse the flavors. And then once that's done, you're going to like double strain it through into a clean glass or a jar where you don't have any more of the remnants of the fig, and you're left with this lovely kind of fig flavored gin. So you're going to take that, a 1/2 ounce of Dom Benedictine, and a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounces of fig syrup. You can also just use like a Demerara syrup if you wanted to, but a fig syrup, and you can get that on Amazon. There is fig syrup that you can buy. I think from Liber & Co. Creates one, which is very nice. And then 1 ounce of lemon juice and 2 dashes of cardamom bitters. And you're going to add all those ingredients into a shaker with ice. Give it a good shake for 10 to 12 seconds until well chilled. You're going to double strain it into a chilled coupe and garnish it with a fig slice, or don't. But you don't need a garnish, but it's very nice fall themed cocktail. So that's what I'm drinking, the Fall of Fig.
That's a tasty cocktail. What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. That's very kind of you, Bob. Today, I am drinking a cocktail that I am calling Lost in the Jungle. And this cocktail, Bob, is made from what I call wounded soldiers, because my bar is getting pretty crowded, and I needed to make some space because I got some new soldiers coming in, new recruits. Bob, I got new recruits, and I got to get some of these old guys out of there. And so I took out all of my wounded soldiers, my bottles that have just a little bit left, and I said, I'm going to make me some cocktails from there. And I looked over all my wounded soldiers, and I said, you, and you. And I pointed at a Joven Mezcal and my Banane do Brazil and said, you're going to be in a cocktail. And I fully expected to not enjoy this cocktail because I was just sort of experimenting and didn't know what I was doing. But honestly, I think this one is pretty good the way it is. And what is it? Well, it has 1.5 ounces of mezcal, 1 ounce of the banana liqueur, 1 ounce of lime juice, and 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. If you like your cocktails on the drier side, you could forego the simple syrup. If you like them sweeter, you could bump that up a little bit. For the garnish, I have a lime wheel, and to make it, you take the mezcal, the banana liqueur, lime juice, and simple syrup, and you put them all in a shaker with ice. You shake that until it is chilled, and then you double strain that into a coupe glass, and then you float the lime wheel on top. And it is smoky, banana-y goodness. These are 2 flavors that play surprisingly well together, and I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot. This is my best one in a while, Bob. My best one in a while.
That's a tasty cocktail.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm almost sad that I have wounded soldiers because I can't make many more of these.
Pretty amazed that actually worked. Mezcal and banana liqueur, I would have been like, are you crazy? But wow, okay.
Yeah, well, I had to bump up the banana liqueur. That's why usually I would let the mezcal be the key player here. But
yeah, a lot of people don't like mezcal. I think they're not a fan of what it brings to the table. Much like Matt Chapman.
Wait, what? Whoa. Whoa. You mean you must be referring to his smoky good looks?
Maybe I am. But it's interesting. I've seen a number of people on social media recently being really frustrated with Matt Chapman, and I'm having a hard time understanding why that is. One guy was like, well, he strikes out once a game. And I'm like, so does every other major league player. And in fact, if you get 4 at-bats a game, Matt Chapman strikes out once a game because it's about 26% of his at-bats end in a strikeout. I think the league average is like 24.3 or something like that. So it's slightly above the league average, but not egregiously. But it got me thinking that, people don't really appreciate, what Matt Chapman brings to the table. And I think it's because we undervalue defense as fans. Like we don't, we like the flashy play, but it's not something that's easily quantifiable, I think, for us in terms of like looking at numbers and knowing that that player A or whatever is that much better than everybody else. But we do have advanced statistics now that try to put a player in a, in rank them as based on a certain value. And so I thought I would, go over some of these because Matt Chapman, while I don't want to gloss over this, is also a very good offensive player. And his OPS plus last time I checked was like 118 or 113 or something like that, which is significantly above league average. But where he brings a lot of his value is on defense. And I mean, some of them you look at, like you go and look at StatCast and Baseball Savant and all these websites. They have all these different ratings of players. And Matt Chapman ranks third in all third basemen for hardest throws. So he's he throws hard. He's third best in third basemen and outs above average. So taking all average, plays, and then Matt Chapman is the third best at outs above average, and then is first in all third basemen in defensive run saves, which is a Fangraphs stat. And so, I think all those combined is that he brings a lot of value. His WAR is one of the top, I think, 20 in the league, and he's also has the highest WAR in general for the Giants. And then he plays every game, Ben. Okay. I mean, I think he's taken like 2 days off the entire year, something ridiculous like that. I mean, he got hit on the funny bone today and still stayed in the game. Like, I mean, just, a fastball on the funny bone, man. Yeah. So anyway, I felt like Matt Chapman deserves a little bit of love because, yes, I guess the Giants haven't maybe perform the way that we thought they were, but Matt Chapman has been quintessential Matt Chapman. I mean, this is the player that he's been, if not a slightly above or better version than what he's been. And so, which is why I think the Giants are trying to re-sign him. We've seen some reports lately that the Giants are trying to, sign him before he hits free agency or before he opts out of his contract, I should say. And so I think I just wanted to throw that out there. That defense is a big part of his value, and that's not something that we should overlook because it's a really important position on the field, and he does it better than almost anyone. So I wanted to bring that up. Do you have any thoughts on Matt Chapman?
I think Matt Chapman has been everything that the Giants could have hoped for this season. And I agree with you that there definitely certainly seems to be the fans out there who don't like him because of his offensive numbers, right? And so what Matt Chapman has done this year so far, and by the way, he's missed 3 games.
Yeah,
he's missed 3 games this season. His batting average is .247. His on-base percentage is .333. And his slugging percentage is .442, and his OPS plus he is 22% above average for the season. Okay, those align extremely closely with his career numbers. He's a 241 hitter for average. He's a 329 on base percentage, so he's better than in both this year. He is a 459 slugging percentage over his career, so he's slightly under that. But his career OPS plus is 18% above average. So relative to the league, he's better than normal. So he has been everything that any fan could have expected, right? So if you don't like what Matt Chapman is doing, you don't like Matt Chapman, right? And you never wanted him to be on the team, right? Or you expected something way different than what you got. He has been exactly what the Giants could have hoped for. Beyond that, a big part of that is his defense, right? His defensive value is amazing. But you know what I love about him? I love the flashy plays, right? I love that when he comes running in and bare hands that ball like right next to the mound and then throws it like he's Tyler Rogers, just underhands that ball, but throws it way faster than Tyler does.
Yes.
Way faster. Right? And then the guy is out by like 5 steps. Like that's exciting baseball, and he's a really, really fun and exciting player to watch. I mean, this is absolutely a guy that the Giants need to bring back next year. He is absolutely a guy that they need to bring back. And you know what? He's 31 years old, and so you're like, gosh, he must be slowing down, and I think he probably is. But depending on which advanced defensive stat you want to look at, he is. I don't even know what this. What is this stat called here? Well, in outs above average, he is the 24th best player of qualified players this year. In defensive runs saved, he is 4th overall, right? This is a 31-year-old player who is one of the most elite players in the league when it comes to defense, and he's a quality guy in your lineup. So, like, I don't know how you can look at Matt Chapman and be upset about what he's done. I think if you're upset, what you're upset about is that, like, he is the Giants' best player, right? And I think, and more importantly, he is the Giants' best hitter. And that is, yeah, we want somebody a little bit better than 22% better than league average to be our best hitter. But that doesn't mean that Matt Chapman doesn't bring a tremendous value. He has been one of the bright spots of this season for me. And I am, when they said of the Boris 4, he was the one I wanted the most. And I haven't regretted the Giants signing him. So, yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything to say about Chapman.
All right. Well, and then the other player that is even more interesting because he offers almost no value offensively. In fact, it's a negative. Ooh. Offensively is Patrick Bailey, and it's crazy. You look at his so Patrick Bailey is 3rd on the team in WAR for the Giants, and all behind Matt Chapman and Logan Webb, and all of that value is based on his catching and framing abilities. And first of all, he leads all major he leads all major leaguers in fielding run value. Which is a stat that combines all your different things that you do and assigns a value to it in terms of defense. And then what's interesting is that Fangraphs says offensively he's 8.9% below league average offensively, but he's 31.5% above league average defensively, which gives him a 3.6 Fangraphs WAR. And so I guess if you're a fan of Patrick Bailey, you do not want automated balls and strikes to be called because that will drastically lower Patrick Bailey's value. But in the meantime, the guy is a beast back there, and he regularly steals strikes. In fact, he steals more strikes than any catcher out there in baseball. So he makes your pitching staff better. Just yeah, I mean, it's easy to kind of say that, oh, look at his offensive numbers and how terrible they are, and I think we're kind of used to Buster Posey and all these offensive minded catchers, but Patrick Bailey is more valuable than any other player on the field besides Matt Chapman, just based on what he does behind the plate. And so I don't think that's something to sneeze at. I think that Patrick Bailey deserves a little bit of credit for that alone. And yes, it would be nice if he could figure out his second half woes but catching is a demanding job, and I'm sure he's having some fatigue at this point in his in the season, and we're seeing that offensively, but defensively he's still the same Patrick Bailey, and that's really impressive. So I definitely think that he deserves some kudos for that.
I mean, okay, Patrick Bailey is on another planet when it comes to defense. I think he's the best defensive player in all of baseball for any position.
Yeah.
And yes, a huge part of that is his framing. He has I don't know what the actual score here is on this, but right. His framing runs above average. That means that like the number of runs that he saves your team by just his framing ability, that is to steal strikes, is 14. Like there's only 15 catchers that have more than one frame outs above average run. And Patrick Bailey has 14. The next closest two guys are Cal Riley and Austin Wells from Seattle and the Yankees, respectively, and they have 10. He's 40% better than those guys. And then I don't know what this stat means, Matthew. When I'm at Fangraphs and I mouse over it, it won't tell me. Like every other column, when I mouse over it, it says what all these columns mean. But it looks important because it's at the very end on the Advanced tab.
Okay.
It says DEF. DEF. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Just means defense.
But I tell you this, the second best guy in all of baseball, his name is Jake Rogers. He's from Detroit, also a catcher. His DEF is 18.9. Patrick Bailey's is 31.8. So I don't know what this stat is. I mean, it might be totally irrelevant, but I would think that they put it on there and they put it at the very end because it kind of like sums up everything. Patrick Bailey is twice as good as the next best player in baseball. So yeah, like he's amazing. That being said, Matthew, I don't like framing. I want the balls and strikes to be balls and strikes. But you know what? If they do have automated balls and strikes, it's going to be challenge. And I think he's going to screw a lot of guys over with that, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have borderline strikes that are actually strikes. And those guys are going to lose their challenges because they challenge the wrong pitch.
Yeah, I think so, close pitches that are actually strikes, people are going to challenge because they're going to assume that he stole it.
Right. And you know what I think these guys will start doing? I think they'll start yanking pitches that they know are strikes. Right? Because just to try and give those guys this thought of like, oh man, look how much he framed that one.
Yeah.
When you're just framing an actual strike and you deke these guys into making play. So I don't think this is a done deal.
That's
right?
interesting. It's interesting. Like the gamesmanship within this new rule would be interesting. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I don't think it necessarily is going to devalue him significantly. And there's ways that I could see it being of great value. I mean, it would be nice though, Matthew, if he could hit a little bit.
It would.
and
especially because we don't have any other people that can really hit.
right and there's the rub, right? I mean, like, I love great defense, and I was a big proponent of the strategy that Farhan went with this particular roster. It seemed somewhat accidental. It seemed sort of like last second of putting this kind of like pitching and defense thing together, with Nick Ahmed and Matt Chapman. And then, of course, you leverage Patrick Bailey and you have all these great pitchers and ground ball pitchers and all of that. But nonetheless, I like that strategy. I like good defense. I like strong pitching. But I wonder and I worry that too much of that means that you have almost no hitting whatsoever. And it's really, really painful when you have all of these guys coming to the plate with runners in scoring position, and none of them can knock a guy in. And then you say, yeah, but they're really good at defense. And that it's painful. It's painful to watch. So I think what I'm saying is that, like, if you lean too much on this defense element and you don't then augment the team with players who are stronger offensively, then you can really, really end up being too of a one-dimensional team. A team needs balance, right? You need guys who can hit and can play defense. And they don't have to be the same guy, because I know those guys are going to cost a fortune. But you need balance on both sides of the ball across different players. And I also think that you need balance within the different types of hitters that you do have. Like, especially Matt Chapman. Like, Matt Chapman, I already went over his offensive stats and said that he's been doing exactly what you would expect Matt Chapman to do. He's even hit 21 home runs this year, and his career average is 28. So, he's not going to be too far off of that. But yeah, you know what, Matthew? He does strike out a lot, right? He's a guy who looks for his pitch to drive, and he runs into them occasionally and hits them really hard. But he also swings and misses a lot at a lot of balls down the middle. So what does that mean? Does that mean we cut Matt Chapman?
Cut him.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad he's leaving. Good. Don't exercise that option. Don't let that door hit you on the way out. No, I mean, I think what it means, Matthew, is that if you're going to have a player like that, you need to have other players that aren't like that. And I heard Dwayne Kuiper say this on that other podcast, where he was talking about that he thinks that there's too many Giants on the team that have the same hitting profile, that they all have the same kind of approach. And they're either like all or nothing kind of hitters, guys who strike out a lot, or you do have a couple of guys like Lamont Wade Jr. who are on-base guys, although not many of those, really.
Far cry from the 2021 year when that was a thing.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah, it was look for your pitch to drive, hit it out of the park, be very stingy on what you swing at.
Yeah.
This team looks a little less stingy, right?
Yeah.
A little more free swinging. And not a lot of contact, right? Nobody on this team hits for average. And, Jung-Hoo Lee, unfortunately, got injured way too early. But I think if he had stayed on the roster, he would have been the only guy, right? Your only contact hitter. Like, this is even true of it's especially true of Fitzgerald, right? And I think somewhat true of Ramos, right? So even our two big breakout young players fall into this mold.
Strike out a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, like, do the Giants have too many guys of the same hitting profile? And is that why they can't hit with runners in scoring position? Because they have too many guys who do the same thing over and over again. And so you just increase your chances of having strikeouts and balls that you just miss and hit sacrifice flies. And so I thought it would be a good idea for us to take a moment and sort of break down where the San Francisco Giants roster is today. And then maybe I'm even setting the table for us to start talking about this for the rest of the season, because I know there's not going to be... I don't know what we're going to talk about for the rest of the month, Matthew, because we cannot talk about how much we want Farhan Zaidi fired for 4 weeks. We just can't do that.
Easy to edit that podcast.
Hey, we could just record it one time.
Fire Farhan over and over and over.
Yeah,
again.
that's right.
Just say
that's
it.
right.
Put it on a loop. Just while we sit back and get drunk. I like it.
Exactly. But one thing that we could do is we could try to figure out the method of Farhan's madness. Ooh. So we had some changes to the Giants roster as a result of a few things going on. And we did talk about this on Wednesday, or I even think a week ago.
We brought it up, yeah.
Yeah, where Tyler Matzik, and Taylor Rogers were reportedly placed on outright waivers, which are irrevocable. You used to be able to revoke waivers in the past, which meant that if a team claimed them, you could then pull the player back. And maybe you would talk to that team about a possible trade. And sometimes those trades happen. But that went away. There's no such thing as revocable waivers anymore. So these are what are called outright waivers. And there's a special mechanism to them, which we'll talk about, because that ended up happening to Thairo Estrada. But rumor had it that the Giants placed those three players on outright waivers. And as far as we know, nobody was claimed. And the reason that they did it at this time was that anybody that added them to their 40-man roster, or their major league roster, rather, would be able to use those players in the playoffs. So the Giants were hoping that somebody would pick them up and pick up the rest of their salary. Especially, I think that was true of Taylor Rogers.
Especially, he's at $12 million next year. So
yeah, exactly.
That's the rub there, which I didn't realize we were talking about that last week. But he's got another year in his contract. That's a $12 million contract. So I think the Giants would be happy to get rid of that. Right.
Well, let me say this name for the first time in earnest this year. That's $12 million of Soto money right there, baby.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, could be. Could be. That's what they were trying to do, trying to get some Soto money. That's not, no. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try, but no, it's not happening. But anyway, so the point is they did all of that, and we don't know exactly what happened, but the fact that all of these players, well, the fact that Taylor Rogers is still on the team means that nobody claimed him. And then Tyler Matzik, nobody claimed him either, and then the Giants put him on, they DFA'd him. So after that. Thairo Estrada, though, something different happened. Thairo Estrada, because he cleared those outright waivers, was outrighted to AAA, back to the minor leagues. And that allowed the Giants to remove him from the 40-man roster. So he's no longer taking up a 40-man roster spot. Now, because Thairo had more than 3 years of service, he could have said, no, I refuse to go to the minor leagues. But then he would have become a free agent immediately, and the Giants would not have had to pay him the rest of his salary this year, which is like, I heard $800,000. So that's a lot of money that Thairo would be walking away from if he said, I want to be a free agent.
Yeah,
and since nobody claimed him on waivers, nobody's going to sign you as a free agent and put you on their 40-man and put you on their major league roster. So he's probably choosing the money there. Especially
Absolutely.
Since
Sacramento is fine if you're getting $800,000.
Right, and it might be the last $800,000 that you get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to him in the future, and I certainly
he'll get a spring invitation invite somewhere next year.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's going to end up anywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that means that Thairo's off the 40-man roster. Right? This is the guy that last September was trying to rally the Giants in the power vacuum that existed on Gabe Kapler's roster, in Gabe Kapler's clubhouse. And now look how far he's fallen. He's not even a Giant anymore, and we've probably seen the last time he'll play as a Giant. What happened?
How fast they fall, I guess, huh? And the other guy that was trying to do the same was Wilmer Flores, and so it also makes me wonder, like, now is, especially on the offensive side, where's the leadership? Matt Chapman, maybe.
I mean, I think, the soon-to-be free agent Matt Chapman. I mean, I think so, right? I mean, I think the only leaders in the locker room right now are who has
Logan
that
Webb
sort of gravitas.
Logan Webb.
Yeah, well, he's as a pitcher, but I mean, I think he's the leader of the entire clubhouse. Yeah, Logan Webb and Matt Chapman are probably your leaders right now. And it definitely brings up a big hole. But I think you also mentioned something that's interesting, which is that, like, Flores is gone. Lamont Wade is definitely having a very down year.
Yeah.
And it's especially been injury-ridden. And so you wonder how much of Lamont Wade Jr. we have left. And that just brings up all sorts of questions about the right side of the infield. Like, suddenly it looks like you have two really big gaping holes there. And how are the Giants going to fill that? I don't think it's going to be Casey Schmidt and Brett Wisely. Like, I don't think the Giants look at those guys as being long-term solutions. They definitely look at Tyler Fitzgerald that way, but, you know, so I think he's part of the equation, but you have another infield spot to fill, and you have a lot of different ways that you could fill that, right? I mean, Marco Luciano is an option, but we learned he can't play shortstop. And, oh, by the way, the Giants could have called him up when Tyro got outrighted, but they called up Brett Wisely. They could have called him up when the rosters expanded today, on September 1st. But instead, they called up Tristan Beck and Rule 5 draftee Blake Sabol. So, you know, I don't know that Marco Luciano is definitely the answer. So it's just a sort of interesting question mark about where the Giants are with the roster. And I also feel like it was very interesting, like who they chose to call up as these September call-ups in Tristan Beck and Rule 5 draftee Blake Sabol.
Yeah, the Sabol one especially is interesting.
Very.
We just talked about how he's probably not a catching option for Bob Melvin. And yet we already have 5 outfielders. And so, I mean, but that's the luxury of having an extra player, though, right? Maybe you're giving Patrick Bailey some rest because he's played in so many games, or I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they use Blake Sabol, because it just seems like you would think that would have been Marco Luciano being brought up.
You would think, right? I think the only thing that Sabol does is he allows you to rest Patrick Bailey, and you're using a guy who's already on the 40-man roster, because I believe Knapp was
yeah, he's DFA'd. He was out.
He was DFA'd, and he was nobody picked him up, and so he stayed with the Giants, but he's not off the 40-man roster. So this is a catcher who's on the 40-man.
All right, I got a solution for the right side of the infield next year, Ben.
What's that?
Sign Pete Alonso at first base and Gleyber Torres at second base. Bada bing, bada dum, boom, you're done.
Okay. Okay. How about instead of Gleyber Torres, you sign Willy Adames and you have Tyler Fitzgerald play second base?
Oh, okay. I could do that too. Sure.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those are both viable options, right? I think that's probably true. I mean, I don't know what's going on the whole Marco Luciano thing, and that's definitely something I want to unpack more later in some future episodes. But right now, I think it's very clear that the Giants are putting every option on the table when it comes to rebuilding the right side of the infield. But I think it's also interesting that the only really young player who is a development player that we've seen called up in the past couple of days is Mason Black to take over Robbie Ray's spot in the rotation.
Well, it's because they needed somebody to start a game.
Well, yeah, sure. You're right. I mean, they did need somebody.
I don't think they're doing it altruistically or because they want to see a guy develop. They needed him to start a game. Right.
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. Like to me, so what you're saying is that the one beneficial thing they get about developing a young player, they just did by accident.
Well, it seems like that's how the Giants develop their players at the major league level, is by accident.
No, it's totally by accident. Yeah, it's absolutely. It's like throw a guy in for 10 games. By the way, that's how many games Marco Luciano played in the whole Marco Luciano at shortstop experiment. He played in 10 games.
Well, Mason Black, let's say he runs the table in his next 6 starts, and all of a sudden, it's 6-0.
I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I'm saying that I wish they called up some young players and were doing some player development. But what are you going to prove in 30 days? Nothing.
Nothing. You get experience, but you're not proving anything.
Right. You're not proving anything. You are getting them experience, which is good for them. But you don't learn anything about that player, no matter how they perform. Because you can go look at, I'm sure the histories of baseball are full of players who've had great 30-day stretches.
Oh, absolutely.
And then never played well again.
See Kevin Moss.
Exactly.
Went out and bought his rookie card and everything.
Yeah. Fastest guy to 10 home runs. And then And then you've had plenty of players who struggled in their first 30 days in the major leagues.
Right.
And then
Matt
became
Williams.
great players. Yeah, exactly. Matt Williams, great example. I don't know that the Giants know that, though, because it seems to be that the only way the Giants allow a young player to develop is by catching lightning in a bottle. And that might be why it happens so rarely for them, because that happens rarely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that this is the time now where, and it seems like with those DFAs and with Tyro Estrada especially being let go, that maybe they're trying to find spots for some of these younger guys to play more this last month. At least they found one more spot. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I just, Marco Luciano not being on it is really, really interesting. And I don't know what to make of that.
I don't know what to make of it either. I mean, to me, the way that they have dealt with that issue is just, I mean, it seems very similar to the whole Camilo Doval situation to me, quite honestly. Just like really, really ham-fisted, really sort of like overreacting, a lot of just like all or nothing kind of approach, just really poor communication with the player. Just the whole thing looks really, really bad. And this is a pattern that has repeated itself a couple of times. And not a great look. Not a great look. But, and that's somebody I would, as a fan, would love to watch play, And yeah, those 10 games he played at shortstop this year were not great. But it was 10 games. In 6 years, you couldn't decide that this kid couldn't play shortstop. He plays 10 games at the major league level, and you're like, oh, he's not a shortstop? It's just, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, I guess if we're looking to the future too, I mean, there's other players that I think that have kind of been floated. Their names have been floated around out there that could be in play next year. Especially you look at somebody like Reggie Crawford, who got promoted to Sacramento recently, has small sample size, but pitched fairly well so far. I'm not sure if he was injured or not. Did he?
He did get hurt after he went to Sacramento, as has been Carson Wisenhunt. So I think those are some names that we would have liked to have seen. And and Bryce Eldridge is 219. He's got too much teenager. So,
okay.
And he's only never been above high A, but I think that's another name you hear people clamoring for.
Yeah, well, I think he's got a lot of potential, but he's probably at least 2-3 years away.
See, I think the Giants would say he's like 4 years away, maybe, and then they'll try him for 10 days, and he'll strike out a lot.
Well, remember, he's got to play the whole season in every. That's
level. Right. He's got to hit every level for a whole year, because that's the Kyle Haynes way.
Well, I guess let's look at the current roster, though. What does the current roster say about the Giants right now? I mean, I look at it and it's just uninspiring.
I would agree.
And I think that I cannot, I mean, in retrospect, or just, you take a step back, I guess I should say, and you look at this roster and you're like, really? This is where we are 5 years into the Farhan Zaidi, regime? This is what we get? Like, I feel like anybody could have put this roster together. It doesn't look like really anything that jumps out at you as like, and the way they played has not really jumped out at you. I mean, we're back to homeostasis. This is not a good team. And so I guess I answered my own question when I say what does the current roster say about the Giants? It just says they're meh, right?
Yeah, and this is not a surprise. I think what we relied on was the defense and especially the pitching being better and deeper and more consistent. And, the starting pitching staff was supposed to be great. And you had a really good young core of young pitching. Mason Black and Kai-Wei Tang and Carson Wisenhunt and Hayden Birdsong, I guess. And Hayden Birdsong was at the bottom of their list. And then all of that was supposed to augment these veterans and instead but also these were all guys, I don't know, Yeah. Look. There's plenty of time, Matthew, for us to unpack all of that for the rest of the month. But I think those are all questions that we should dive deeper into as we continue, because there is a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I have a whole list of things that I think went well for the Giants this year, and I have a much, much longer list of things that did not go well. And so yeah, I think we should unpack those for the rest of the year. But
okay, well, we'll have plenty of time to do that. I think we probably should wrap this episode up. Maybe it's time for the trivia question answer.
Yes, 540.
Okay, well, the question was simple. It was, what is the Giants' winning percentage dating back to the 2022 season? Ben, they have, as of today, in the last 3 plus 2, well, since 2022, they are 228 and 234. Wow. So 228 wins, 234 losses for a winning percentage of 493.
Wait, what? That's not 540.
No,
that's not
it's
competitive.
Not. What is interesting about that is if you take our record today, which is, remind me again, what was our record
68
today?
and 70.
68 and 70. That too is a winning percentage of 493.
So what you're saying is that over this long 3-year stretch and this 1 year less than a year stretch, they have the same winning percentage. So they have been consistently
meh. That's right.
Meh.
Even a little hairball meh. Like just, it's just, you got something stuck in your throat, kind of like meh. It's not good. It's not good.
No, it's not good. It's not horrible.
So just nothing like a trivia question to drive home the fact that Giants are meh.
So what you're saying, Matthew, is that it's not competitive? It's not competitive.
The whole let's be competitive while we rebuild. The competitive part is lacking a little bit.
All right.
Well, looking ahead, Ben, we got the Diamondbacks, who are a very competitive team. Second in the National League West at 77 and 60. Players that played for both the Giants and the D-backs: Robbie Ray,
whoa,
Evan Longoria, and Mark Melancon. Interestingly, Mark Melancon is still on the Giants' payroll. He makes as much as Kurt Casale does.
Oh my goodness!
The Giants paid him $1 million this year, and he last time he played was 2019 for the Giants.
Wow. You know who else is on the Giants' payroll this year and also played for the D-bags and the Giants?
Nick Ahmed.
No, well, I don't think he's still on the Giants' payroll.
Oh, no, it's not still. Well, yeah,
is he?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think he is, because he got DFA. Anyway, but yes, okay. But I was thinking about Matt Williams.
Oh, yes, and Wilmer Flores. I mean, there are others, but I think I've already mentioned them in previous.
Yes, but always Matt Williams. It's the greatest baseball player to ever play for the San Francisco Giants. He's right ahead of Camilo Doval. We've talked about this.
We've talked about it. Yes. I didn't know you wanted to revisit the fact that he was a Diamondback.
All right, I just want to revisit Matt Williams all the time, always. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, folks, I think it's time to wrap this up. Don't forget to follow us on the socials at Giant Cocktails, at Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Mastodon. Also, remember that you can find us on YouTube, where you can leave comments and subscribe there and hit the little bell to get notified when we publish. Also, don't forget to rate us on the podcast listener of your choice. It really would help. Just go in there and give a 5-star rating. Really does help the show. Ben, it's been great chatting with you. And hopefully we can talk about maybe a win or two against the D-backs next time we hook up. Until then, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
You were really into it today.
Into what?
the Giants. I could feel the excitement just oozing off of you.
Oh, because the Giants are just so exciting.
You got to get that fire, man. You got to get that Farhan's fire going.
I do. I need to like just dig into the hatred. The vitriol needs to just surge through my veins.
That's right. You need to start grinding your pitchfork.